here's Alex from Blacksheep IT Consulting with a bit of a off-topic but important topic if you are not frequently installing Siebel CRM and maybe struggling a little bit with the self-signed certificates. So a few years ago, I published a make CMD file, a Windows CMD file. There's also a Linux variant out there. And with today's agentic AI tools like Cursor, which I have just open here, you can, of course, make improvements and modifications to this very easily. And I have asked Cursor in auto mode, by the way, I'm just testing waters here, to create an improved make file. So it's called make2. And I ask Cursor to add comments to it and to improve the security, etc. So the goal here is that we can generate self-signed certificates. So yeah, Cursor has done quite a good job. So let me just here go to the editor. And let's review the file and then run it so we understand what's necessary to create the JKS file for the Siebel Tomcats or in general for a Siebel deployment. Keep in mind that we are using a technique called self-signed certificate, or rather self-signed certificate authority. So we're creating our own certificate authority, which means this is absolutely not legit for production environments where you should have certificates signed by a real certificate authority, of course, that is, well, authorized to do so. So self-signed CA is somewhat beyond the security boundaries that you usually have, but it's typical for simple demonstration evaluation environments where you don't want to go through the cost also associated with using a real certificate authority. So this script generates a complete SSL certificate chain for Siebel CRM by creating a self-signed certificate authority, a server certificate, which then is signed by that authority, and then creates a JKS key store containing the server certificate and the private key for that server, and a JKS trust store containing the CA certificate. So that's practically the steps you have to do. If you don't have a certificate authority, create one, get your server certificate, get it signed, put it in a JKS container so Tomcat can use it. That's the nutshell of it. So the script takes two input arguments, an FQDN, the fully qualified domain name, like server.company.com, and an alias used for the key store entry. So key store entries have an alias, and this should be comprehensive. So example here, myserver.company.com is the server FQDN, and my server is the alias. Okay, so here's the first part is just input validation. The second part is a configuration part setting local variables. So we have the FQDN, the alias, we have our home directory, which is where you put this keymaker tool that I put together, and you need a path to a JDK because Java key tool is used, and you need an OpenSSL binary installation. So you point to it using these variables here. Then there's a very hard-coded password, which of course is super insecure. Yeah, there's that. That's the password for the use then for all the purposes, that is certificates, keys, and the JKS files. Then we have a certificate authority name, hard-coded here, Siebel CA. And then we have a list of subject alternative names. Now these subject alternative names are additional FQDNs or wildcard FQDNs. You can see here like asteriskcompany.com, And even IP addresses can be used here. So, of course, that is then working for when you use an IP address to access Siebel. So we have our OpenSSL config file, we have the output directory, which is using the alias. So there will be a directory which is prepared now, so it's removed if it exists and not. And finally, we arrive at the first step to generate the server key pair. So this is using Java key tool, and it uses GenKey to take all the ingredients together. So it basically generates the Siebel key store JKS file with a key pair in it, a private public key pair that is then used by the server. Then we create a CSR, a certificate signing request, and that uses key tool again against that new file, creating a CSR file. That's what this actually does. And we now create a certificate authorities key pair for the self-signed certificate authority. So that's the key that is output here. So it produces those key files. And then we create a so-called configuration file with the extensions for this CA certificate. So that means, for example, you put in CA true, so to identify it as a certificate authority, it can sign other certificates, and it can also do CRL sign. So now this is the step where we self-sign the CA certificate. So anything related to CAs, to the self-signing, is of course not necessary if you have a CA, if you have a certificate authority. They will just sign your certificate and send it to the CA. So there's another configuration file which is produced for the server certificate. So we have the subject alt name here, the alternative names. We have the extended usage. Extended usage for Siebel is very important. It must have server auth and client auth. So we put this in a config file, which is then used below, of course. Then we need a serial number. So each certificate signed gets a unique serial number that is just demo purposes here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And finally, we sign the server certificate with our newly created self-signed certificate authority, which produces the signed server certificate. And now we import the certificate authority certificate into the key store. Must be imported to establish the trust chain. And we import the signed server certificate into the key store. So this is the one that has been produced by signing the certificate. Then we create the trust store. So here we create another JKS file, and this JKS file will include the CA certificate for starters and can later be used as a trust store. You know, the Siebel Tomcats take a key store and a trust store with the same password. So this is the future trust store file, but of course it already contains the CA certificate from the chain. Then the final steps actually are just displaying the contents of the key store and trust store. Then there's a completion summary with some instructions. So again, this script was generated by Cursor AI, by an automatic model. I don't know which one was it. Did quite a good job. It took, of course, the original handcrafted file that I created a few years ago. And of course, that's a much improved version with a lot of commentary. So of course we want to see it in action and run it. So let's run this one more time. So I run the make2cmd. I call my server testservercompany.com, and the alias is going to be test server. So it runs all the steps, and as we can see, as we go back and check, so it prepares the directory, it generates the server key pair. There are warnings about the proprietary format, so it's JKS and not PKCS12. We create the signing request, create the certificate authority, key pair, the extensions, self-signing. So that worked well here, creating the server configuration, server extension configuration, the serial number, signing the server certificate, okay, importing it into the key store, importing the signed server certificate, creating a trust store, and verifying. So this is the listing of the key store, alias is test server, and we have a private key entry. We have the extensions, especially the extended usages, the subject alternative names, and the issuer is the Siebel CA, the certificate authority. And that's the that's the trusted authority. Then we have the trust store content, which has the trusted authority again. And well, here's the description and the instructions how to use the file. So here's the folder that has been created, and these are all the files saved along the way by running this. So the files you need for Siebel are Siebel Key Store and Siebel Trust Store. So yeah, so you can use an approach like this. Of course, you can use a whole different approach, but what you have to end up with is a Siebel Key Store and a Siebel Trust Store JKS file, which works for your environment. Thank you very much. Take care and bye-bye.